Hi, I'm Mr. C back in the shop, and I wanted to show you something that's a little bit unusual for a wood shop. One of the teachers in the building has little girls that are into gymnastics. And he approached me and asked me, is it possible for us to go ahead and build a balance beam for my daughters this Christmas? I said, absolutely. This isn't going to take very much. So this is something maybe you could try at home with very limited tools without a problem. First thing you need to do is you need to go find some place that happens to have 2x6 material. Now this is a cut list of all the material that's needed. What you need to do is just go and pick up 4 2x6 by 8 foot regular construction grade lumber. Okay? And then what you need to do is, right after you pick it up, bring it into the shop, and if you have a planer, great. Because then you can make it to the exact size what a typical balance beam is, which is 4 inches in width. Now with this, what we had to do is we took 2 beam pieces that were 96 by 5.5, and I planed them down to 1 inch and 3/16 of an inch thick. We did this with all 4 pieces of the material before we started cutting anything. So the very first thing we did is we went ahead and we laid out on our beams. Let me just go ahead and set this down and explain the very first piece or pieces. This is a beam, and what I've done is this is the outside of the beam, the balance beam. And wherever you see these black dots, these are where we're going to go ahead and screw the beam together. The screw is going to act kind of like a clamp at first, and then we're going to go ahead and clamp it up. But to prevent it from moving all over the place, we're going to use these dots as our guidelines to where we put 1 inch and 3/4 screw in. Okay? So I'm going to place this down, and I would like to explain the other parts before we start any type of assembly. Now, so we have 2 beam pieces, which you've seen that I just showed you. Now the beam spacer. This is the spacer that I was talking about as the beam spacer. And what this is just a piece that's going to go in the middle of the balance beam that's cut to 60 inches in length by 5.5 inches wide by 1 3/16 thick. Then on the end, we have the beam ends. Those end up being 12.5 inches long by 5.5 inches wide by 1 inch and 3/16 thick as well. The reason why we did that is because we would like to hide the feet or the thing that's the vertical member that's going to hold the beam up. Now since these are for one of my colleagues' little girls, we didn't want to have the height of the beam too high up, just for them to get some practice in. So the legs, what we did was we cut these legs at 17 inches by, and then the width of it is 5.5 inches, and the thickness again is 1 inch and 3/16. We're going to integrate these legs into the beam, okay? So that way it's a lot stronger. We don't have to worry about the little girls getting hurt. Then we have our support pieces. Our support pieces are going to be 6 inches in length. That's this piece here, cut on the 45-degree angles. So we have 6 inches in length this way, okay, by 5.5 the width, and then the 45-degree angles cut on either end so that way I can support this up. Now the last thing that's not on this board is the foot, or the base, oh I'm sorry, the 2 feet. These are the feet pieces. These are 20 inches in length by 5.5 inches in width, and these are going to get in there by 1 inch and 3/16 as well as the thickness. So these are the parts that you need to go ahead and build yourself a balance beam. Now we are going to wrap this with a foam, a thin foam, and then the covering, which is some type of synthetic material, so that way it's all covered up and nice, and then we found a nice girly spray paint color that'll match up real well for what they want it for, okay? So these are the parts to the beam for the students that, or the little girls of one of my colleagues here at the high school. So this is just something real quick. Now, our very first part that I did not talk about or show you was on the foot. What we did was we created a dado in the center of the foot, so that way the vertical member can get locked right in here nice and neatly, and then we can go ahead and then put our 45-degree angle pieces on here like so. Oops, sorry. So you can see how the foot goes together, and this is going to be extremely strong, especially for the little girls that are going to be using this. Okay, so this is how the leg is going to look on this. I hope this makes a little bit of sense for you. And what I want to do is I want to show you how we're going to go ahead and cut these. I've already took the liberty to cut one of these and set up the machine for this. I'm just going to get safety glasses on, and I'm going to wheel you over so that way you can see our table saw with a dado head in it. It's got a 3/4 inch stacked dado, and we set the height to be 5/8 of an inch deep. So let's go ahead on our little field trip here. This is our dado head. I have a miter gauge set up exactly at 90 degrees. I have a stop block set up to ensure that I only cut along the desired area. I go ahead, I place this down. This is out of the way of the blade. I'm going to hold this down properly. I turn this on, I make sure